Hello there. Welcome back to the Bernie Miklasz Show here on my YouTube channel. Thanks for all your support, all the subscriptions, and the paid and the views and the watch hours and everything else. We're doing really well, and I'm really happy. Just a reminder: if you go over to Cardinal Territory on YouTube, I did a video with Katie Wu, the great baseball writer from The Athletic, and we had a good, very enjoyable conversation for about 35 minutes. It was good, really good. Really enjoyed working with her and talking with her and having a good discussion on the Cardinals and other matters. So you can check that out. Cardinal Territory, and please subscribe to that as well. Also, please subscribe to the Gas House Gang, which is a weekday video show that I'm part of, along with Tom Ackerman and Matt Pauly and Kevin Wheeler. I'm on the shows Monday and Thursday and Friday, noon St. Louis time, but then there's a podcast version and you can go retrieve the YouTube channel version. More people have been turning it into a podcast, but you do what you want. I just feel I've been lax and not getting the word out on it. So how about me, Mr. Video, right? Wow, Mr. Video. I like it, actually. It's fun. All right, Ohio State. Yesterday, I should say this. I picked Navy. I picked Navy to win every week, but I'm looking at the end. Maybe this time it can count for Notre Dame. Anyway, last night or yesterday, my video that I got online too late, but I got it online before the game. It was a little too later, and I wanted to do it anyway. I had a hard time making up my mind. Those of you who watched the video, but I ultimately went with Notre Dame for a few factors that I mentioned at the end, and I took Notre Dame to win and to cover, which they did, and I said that they would win by 3 points, which is exactly what they did. So we'll see if we can keep it going. And with this one, so far in the college football playoffs, I'm 9-0 straight up, and against the spread, I'm 5-4. And dang it, that should be 6-3, but I made a mistake. Just one of those I'd love to kind of have back. Talk myself out of something, and I should have never done that. So anyway, what about Ohio State and Texas? Ohio State's just torrid. They're going totally nuts on the field, just destroying Tennessee and Oregon in a way. They pulled that team together after losing to Michigan. The coaches rallied around the players rallied around the coaches, the whole squad. It's almost like they formed a protect Ryan Day security service, because they were just, whatever it was going to happen, they were going to not let this coach lose again. They were going to show how great they are and how great he is. And that can bring a team together. It's that whole us against the world thing. And Ohio State was even against their own fans that were turning on Ryan Day. That stuff was powerful. But more than anything, Chip Kelly opened up that offense, which was long overdue because they have so many good players. Okay, out on the perimeter. So Ohio State's laying 6 points, and that's a lot. And some of the sharp money's coming in on the Buckeyes, on the Longhorns, just because you see the 6 points and say, I think Texas is very good, and that's too much for me. So I'm gonna take the value there, the value bet +6. I'm saying some of the sharps are. I'm explaining their thinking. If Texas is going to have any chance of this, any hope of this, they're going to have to come out tonight in Arlington, at Jerry World there, and they are going to have to slow down Ohio State, this incredibly confident Ohio State team. They're going to have to slow them down in the first half. Here's what they did in the first half, first halves of beating Tennessee and Oregon, and the games weren't close. They're just blowouts. This is the first half specifically. Ohio State outscored those two teams, those two victims, 55-18. They had 6 touchdowns to 2 for the other guys. In those two first halves against Tennessee and Oregon, Ohio State outgained those teams by 400 yards. That's an average of 200 yards per first half in those two games. This is crazy stuff. I mean, Tennessee was a good team, and Ohio and Oregon hadn't lost all season. And they just whacked them, right? In the 2 wins total, full game, Ohio State outscored Tennessee and Oregon 76-38. They had 11 touchdowns, gave up 5. That's a +6. And they were +441 in total yards. The Ohio State defense held Tennessee and Oregon, for example, to 3.6 yards per play. By the way, that average per play in the first 2 games in the first half. This is just nuts. This stuff's crazy. Ohio State averaged 10.5 yards per play in the first half of those two games. That's why I say, man, Texas has got to come out there and put up some kind of roadblock. I mean, they got to put some doubt in the mind of the Ohio State players and coaches. Maybe they'll tighten up. But if they let them get off to a great start and they really get rolling talking about the Buckeyes, I don't see any way Texas wins this game. I really don't. Because Texas, I think, is a bit overrated only because the top of the SEC was overrated this year. The balance of the SEC was really good. But the teams, usually you have the first or second best team in the ACC in a given year, maybe even the top three teams. They're really strong, really strong. But those top dogs are formidable in a way where you say, well, that could well be the national championship. I don't see anybody stopping them. Texas has won 13 games. They're really good. Don't get me wrong. But you look under the hood of the car and you'll see some things that tell you, So this will be the most athletic team that Ohio State has faced this season. Absolutely. But here's where I'm going to kind of go under the hood a little bit, right? The Texas defense was considered elite for most of the season. And this Texas defense that was considered elite most of the season has looked vulnerable in recent weeks. In the SEC championship game, Texas played Georgia. They had already lost to Georgia in the first in the regular season meeting. And Texas went into New Orleans for the first round. And no, in the SEC championship, I'm sorry, they went to the rematch in the SEC championship down at the Georgia Dome, down at the Mercedes-Benz Stadium or whatever it's called. Sorry, stupid. And the Longhorns gave up 147 yards rushing losing to Georgia in that game. And it's probably why they lost the game. Because Georgia has had kind of an up and down, inconsistent running game all year, and they put 147 yards on Texas. Then let's go to the first round of the playoffs. The Longhorns gave up 330 passing yards and 3 touchdown passes to Clemson. And Clemson's got a good offense, but it's an ACC offense, and that's a lot of damage against an elite defense, if you ask me. And Texas had that game well under control, and then things started to get away from them for a while. Clemson made it uncomfortable there for a while because Texas couldn't stop the pass. So they gave up 412 yards, 330 yards, 3 touchdowns through the air, and 24 points to Clemson in the first round. Then Arizona State from the Big 12, that's the second postseason opponent, as in the playoff for the Longhorns. Texas got blasted for 510 total yards and 214 yards rushing and 31 points. They survived. They were on the ropes. They survived, but the defense in overtime, double overtime, the defense stood up. Absolutely. But we're talking about throughout the day, man. Arizona State did a lot of things, a lot of nasty things to that Texas defense. So let's switch to the offense for a minute. You probably don't realize it. There's a fairly large gap between the season-long performances of these two quarterbacks in this game. We're talking Will Howard, Ohio State. We're talking Quinn Ewers, Texas. Among power conference quarterbacks that attempted at least 250 throws this year, Ohio State's Will Howard is second in positive play percentage, second in, here I go getting fancy, the points per play metric, and number 4 in EPA, which is a real go-to now increasingly in the NFL and college football, just judging performance and value of performance. So people maybe not see him as like a top 5 quarterback, power conference, but he is. Quinn Ewers rides that roller coaster. We saw that in the Arizona State game because he was really unimpressive for a lot of the day. But when they needed money throws to stay alive in that game and then win that game, he did it in overtime. But I don't know. I just don't know what to expect from Ewers. I've said on a video or two before here talking college football, I don't trust him. He's been intercepted 11 times this season, and his high interception percentage ranks 34th among 55 power conference quarterbacks. That's not good. That's bad. And while Will Howard ranks second nationally in points per play, Ewers is down at number 40 in the same category. And Ewers' positive play percentage is 11 points lower than Howard's, and that's a significant amount. So this could be trouble against Ohio State's terrific pass defense, which has held opposing quarterbacks to a passer rating that makes the Buckeyes the fifth best pass defense in the nation among power conference teams. And their EPA, pass defense metric, fourth best in the nation. Ewers, often erratic, one of the reasons he just doesn't have a set of outstanding playmakers, and he's also not as mobile as he was before he got banged around for a couple of injuries. If you compare the playmakers on each offense, I mean, it's a no contest. I mean, Will Howard has a legion of these guys. In Ohio State's two playoff wins, Howard and super freshman wide receiver Jeremiah Smith, this dude could be all pro in the NFL already. He's a freshman at college. He's unbelievable. They've connected 13 times for 290 yards and 4 touchdowns. No receiver in the college game is more dangerous than Jeremiah Smith right now. Texas better do something to change that. Among power conference wide receivers and tight ends that have been targeted at least 80 times this season, Jeremiah Smith ranks number 1 in receiver rating, number 1 in yards per pass route, number 1 in yards per target, number 1 in success rate, number 2 in touchdowns, number 3 in explosive play rate. And he's not alone out there. Howard has got all kinds of talented guys to throw to. And Ohio State also has the stronger ground game. If you're going by season statistics, Ohio State ranks 8th nationally among the power conference teams. There's 69 of them. He ranks 8th nationally in rushing EPA, and Texas is above average, but not by much, ranking number 32 in rushing attack EPA. Number 8, number 32. And for all of the acclaim that has been attached to the Texas rush defense, I won't read you numbers here. I just ask you to trust me with this in terms of what I looked up. Ohio State comes out much higher, or at least higher, in the most significant metrics that measure how effective you are at stopping the run. So after that really boring, really dull, uptight loss to Michigan, Ohio State coach Ryan Day and offensive coordinator Chip Kelly, they got in a meeting and said, no, we're going to let this thing fly. We're going to just rip the lid off and let it go. And all of a sudden, they look like the Kurt Warner, Isaac Bruce, Torrey Holt, Marshall Faulk, greatest show on turf. No, I'm not saying they're that good. I'm just saying all of a sudden this offense is kind of like, oh my gosh, how does anybody stop them? They can do everything, and they're fearless, and they're attacking you every way you can. And it's hard to stop all the different guys they have who can make plays. That was the point of my comparison or my analogy. Ohio State can still grind for a lot of rushing yards on the ground game. But the Buckeyes are now more of a quick strike, explosive play offense since they decided, hey, we're going to spread the ball around. We're going to put in some tricky stuff, and we're going to confuse the defense, and they're not going to know, who do we cover? What do we do? Oh, how could we let this guy go one-on-one against us? Where they just overwhelmed Tennessee and Oregon. Both of those defenses, they just completely overwhelmed them with the lethal nature of their passing attack that now was paired with a hell of a rushing game. So those perimeter playmakers who can get out in space, at least against Tennessee and Oregon, they embarrass those teams with this new wide open offense. Very bold and very daring. When Will Howard is winging the balls to receivers like Smith and Ibuka and slipping it to their 2 running backs who are dynamite, talking about Henderson and Judkins, Ohio State can be awfully devastating. And I think it's an ominous matchup for Texas because of that wicked firepower of the reinvented offense. And also, the Buckeyes are the number 1 power conference team in the nation and fewest points allowed per game. this has not been a great season, as I think I mentioned earlier, for top teams in the SEC. I mean, Texas had 2 chances to defeat a limited and banged up Georgia team and failed both tests. Ohio State's at a different level than the teams that Texas has been beating, right? So based on my go-to Sagarin ratings, Ohio State this year 4-1 against top 10 teams. Texas 0-2 against top 10 teams. The performance against top 10 teams based on the Sagarin ratings, one of the main reasons I picked Notre Dame to beat Ohio State. And even though I thought Ohio State had some advantages going into that matchup, but in this game, with the way Ohio State has changed their offense around dramatically and the way they've played defense all season, I think all of the matchup stuff favors Ohio State. I don't think the Buckeyes are going to lose this one unless they really screw some things up. I checked a little while ago. The Circus Sportsbook in Las Vegas tells me that Ohio State has received 77% of the total bets made so far and 79% of the money, the total amount of money that has been wagered so far. But a contact I have out there also told me some sharp money is starting to come in Texas because Texas is getting 6 points, and the thinking goes that's a good value because if Ohio State just comes down to earth a bit, Texas plays better than we've seen lately. You know, this could be a tight game. It's just one of those things you bet on the principle of it because you say there's no way that Texas should be Ohio State should be a 6-point favorite. That's more just confined to betting philosophy or betting perimeters, whatever you do, right? Or parameters. That might be a better word. I'm still going to go with the Buckeyes to win and cover the 6 points, and it's not a recency bias. A recency bias would be if the same offense you were running all year suddenly was good, but it ain't the same offense they were running all year. The offense that's going into the Cotton Bowl game against Texas is an offense that was organized and structured and put together and has an entirely new philosophy that puts the playmakers in position to do extensive damage. It's a brand new offense with really talented players that have been around there all year long. And it's not recency bias. It's an attacking mindset and great talent on that offense. Playmakers everywhere. That's not recency bias because they were there all along. They just had to open it up and let it fly, right? So I'm going to go with the Buckeyes, and I'm going to not only win, but also to cover. If the Buckeyes leave, they leave Arlington, Texas with the loss. Ryan Day might want to hang out. I don't know, maybe go to JR's Ranch or something, or, you know, maybe just hang out in Texas. Go to Austin. Every town in Texas got like 10 great, incredible barbecue restaurants. So, you know, go down to the hill country, whatever. Don't come home, not right away. Because if you lose this one, ain't going to be any cheerful welcome home coach signs greeting Coach Day when he returns to Columbus after losing to Texas, maybe blowing a game to Texas they should have won. Then it's going to be right back to all those loonies going, we got to fire him right now. Oh, my goodness. Anyway, you all have a great day. I'm going to be back with the Cardinals video in a little while, later than I normally do. But I'm going to do it, and then you can look at it when you have some free time tonight or tomorrow or Sunday, because nothing's going to change. Well, maybe if Nolan Arenado gets traded, something would change. But other than that, it's pretty much going to be status quo. But I'll be back with a little Cardinals talk here on the Bernie channel. Thank you for subscribing.